At first, it doesn't look like loss at all. It looks like relief, space, a quiet exhale she didn't realize she was holding. When things end, there's often calm before there's pain. Life feels lighter. Decisions feel easier. There's no one else's rhythm to consider. No adjustments to make. No emotional weight demanding attention. And from the outside, it looks like she moved on effortlessly, like the ending barely touched her. That's usually the part that unsettles you the most. Because while she seems steady, you feel it immediately. The silence lands fast. The routine collapses. The smallest moments echo louder than they ever did before. You replay conversations, wonder what you missed, question whether you could have done something differently. For you, the loss shows up early because attachment was tied to structure, to consistency, to presence. When that disappears, the absence is obvious. Her experience runs on a different clock. In the beginning, nothing feels missing. Distractions work. Attention replaces connection. The freedom feels real. And because emotion hasn't asked for its cost yet, the decision feels justified. Confident even. It convinces her she chose correctly. Time moves quietly like this. Weeks pass, then months. The initial sense of excitement fades. Newness wears thin. And somewhere in the background, something subtle begins to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just a quiet change in how absence feels. What once felt like space starts feeling like something is gone. It doesn't arrive as heartbreak, it arrives as comparison. A conversation that doesn't land the same way. A moment where no one listens quite as fully. A silence that feels heavier than before. Slowly, she begins to realize that the stability she once leaned on isn't easily replaced. That's when memory starts adjusting its tone. She doesn't miss the tension. She doesn't miss the disagreements. She misses the presence, the consistency, the feeling of being grounded without effort. And because this realization comes late, it catches her off guard. Loss feels different when you weren't expecting it to show up. By the time it does, you're already elsewhere emotionally. You've processed what happened. You've rebuilt your rhythm. Your grief came early, and because it didn't linger as long. Healing had time to do its work. Her grief arrives without preparation. There's no single moment to attach it to. No dramatic ending to blame. Just a slow understanding that something meaningful slipped away while she wasn't paying attention. And that kind of loss has nowhere to go. There's no argument to revisit, no apology to request, no clean way to undo time. It just sits there. New connections don't feel as steady. Conversations require more effort. The sense of being understood feels thinner, less certain, and without intending to, she starts measuring what she has now against what she once had. At first, she resists that comparison, tells herself it's nostalgia, that time is distorting things, that everyone misses familiarity sometimes. But the feeling doesn't fade because it isn't sentimentality, it's recognition. Recognition of something stable that never announced its value while it was present. Moments that once felt ordinary gain weight. The way you showed up without being asked. The way your presence didn't need to be exciting to be reliable. The things that blended into the background before now stand out sharply in their absence. Loss hits harder when it's paired with awareness. Not blame, not guilt. Just the realization that nothing was wrong enough to justify losing something that's solid. That the ending didn't happen because of a major failure, but because comfort was mistaken for something guaranteed. Meanwhile, your silence does something words never could. Not as a strategy, not as a tactic, but as a consequence of movement. Your absence confirms that the chapter closed, that life continued, that the space you once held didn't remain empty. It evolved, and that's when the loss becomes real. This is the stage most men never witness, because by the time it happens, you're no longer there. You've built structure in the quiet. The absence forced focus. What once felt like loss turned into direction, and direction doesn't wait. What she misses isn't you specifically. It's how life felt when things were steady, when consistency existed without effort, when emotional ground was solid beneath her feet. And once that feeling attaches itself to a memory, it doesn't fade quickly. Reaching out now feels risky. The timing feels off. The balance has shifted. She senses that instinctively. The version of you she remembers no longer exists in the same way. Growth has happened on both sides. That understanding closes the door quietly. There's no urge to chase, no dramatic confession, just the awareness that something meaningful was released before its value was fully understood. And that realization lingers longer than anger ever could. New connections may feel exciting, but they don't feel safe in the same way. They require performance to sustain, energy to maintain. Slowly, she begins to see the difference between something that stimulates and something that stabilizes. That's when loss shifts from emotional to reflective. It's no longer about wanting something back. It's about living with the understanding that timing matters, that presence has weight even when it's quiet, and that some forms of value don't reveal themselves until contrast forces recognition. Meanwhile, your life has reorganized itself around forward motion. You're no longer waiting for validation. You're no longer replaying the past. The structure you built during silence became your new normal, and it doesn't include reaching backward. She feels that distance without words, not because of rejection, but because energy moved on. There's no opening left, no unresolved tension, and that finality makes the loss settle completely. What remains isn't regret, it's awareness. Awareness that comfort isn't stagnation, that consistency isn't boredom, and that some connections don't end because they were wrong, but because they were misunderstood. That lesson stays, quietly shaping future choices, narrowing what she's willing to accept, raising her tolerance for depth and lowering her tolerance for chaos. And by the time that clarity fully forms, the moment to act on it has already passed. That's the truth about delayed loss. It doesn't crash in, it seeps in slowly, calmly, until one day it's undeniable. And by then, the man who once waited for recognition has already learned to live without needing it.